Alright, good afternoon everybody. I'm here in front of my blackberry vine, which I'm about to explain why. I'm probably gonna get swarmed by mosquitoes, but I'm just really inspired, and when I was picking blackberries, I pick blackberries every day. They grow in the springtime, and 2 days ago, as I was picking, I started to relate the process of picking the blackberries to some lessons that I've been receiving on evangelism. And I just really love how the Lord has been meshing the two and helping me to understand and learn about what evangelism is on another level. And so I felt called to journal about it today. And it's still, like, I'm still processing it all. So just bear with me. But I'm going to share a little bit about what the Lord is teaching me on these two topics. And so as I started journaling today, I just simply wanted to look up evangelism, because it's kind of an intimidating word for me still, even though on Thursdays I've been getting some training on it at our local church. But I really like the word that it came up, because oftentimes evangelism is partnered or kind of paired with sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. And whenever I think of evangelism, the image I get is like the door-to-door evangelism. That's a little bit awkward, that's a little bit scary, that's a little bit uncomfortable. But as I'm exploring what this is, I'm learning some new things about it. I like the word witnessing. That I saw when I looked it up online. That could be a word to kind of take the place of evangelism, witnessing. That is a word that feels really warm whenever I say it, because I feel like I've been an open book throughout most of my life. I'm not scared to share the things that I've been through, because I know it can be encouraging to someone else. And so the word witnessing really opens my mind and heart to welcoming that whole concept a little bit more. And as I'm learning and exploring about this, I'm realizing, like, I was really encouraged to learn, like, really evangelism has been a part of almost everything I do. And I never really saw that before. So that was really beautiful to me. Because I like to share stories, about or just things that we've overcome as we go through different seasons of life. That is a form of evangelism, witnessing to what God is, like, what He's done. In nature, my gardening hobby and stuff like that. That's always been a part of things that I've done, and that's been evangelism. And I don't know why I've never seen that before. Just in checking in and conversation, with people and sharing, like, things that God is doing in my life. That's evangelism. And creating things, the art projects and the things that we do with the kids, like, that is all evangelism. And so seeing how it's completely infused is such a beautiful thing, and it just makes it so much more simple and attainable for everyone to do. And you're probably doing it too, and you don't even know it. And that's the beauty of it. You're doing it. I don't know why I'm getting emotional right now, but I just was really encouraged whenever I realized and I was able to see that this is something so simple, but so powerful. So I'm going to share, as I get myself together, the lessons on picking blackberries. And you might be surprised about a few things that the Lord revealed and sort of guided me through. The first thing that the Lord kind of revealed was that the thornless blackberry vines that you see nowadays, not hating on these, but they're actually not naturally occurring, which is an interesting thing. The naturally occurring blackberry vines do have thorns, which is just a real interesting fact. So what this means is that engineers, genetic engineers, bred different kinds of blackberry vines together in order to get a desired characteristic, which created this thornless blackberry vine. So how I related this fact to evangelism. Thornless blackberry vines, although pleasant and appropriate to use, especially if you have kids who like to pick blackberries, it's just a counterfeit, I guess, perspective of going in to pick fruit or talk to people, and expecting it to be an easy, harmless action. And we'll talk a little bit more about why. So, true natural occurring vines have thorns. Evangelism comes with a cost at times. And oftentimes there's a sacrifice that, some sort of consequence sacrifice you have to make. Not all the time, but sometimes whenever I'm picking, some fruit is like right there. I can easily pick it. See, I didn't get hurt. But there's some fruit that's like way deep inside this tangled mess of aggressive vines. And I'm going to get stung, whether it's going in, like I grab a thorn, or a thorn, gets caught on my arm, whether when I'm pulling out to get the fruit or going in. So I'm going to come out with a little bit of pain, uncomfort, might even have a mark, a scar. So trying to relate all of this to evangelism. So the fruit clearly represents people. There's 1,000 millions of fruit on this plant. There's so many people out in the world. Some of them are ready, have a heart that is open and ready to receive the gospel, and just learn about God's character. And some people might not be quite there yet, and that's okay. We're all have our own processes and journey. And so as I pick, clearly you can tell by blackberries the color. The darker the color, the more ripe the fruit. So it's going to take a level of discernment in dealing with people, because we can't tell by the outside what their hearts look like. So that's why we have to be tapped into the Holy Spirit to discern and ask, and trust and follow that process. So discernment is needed. Let's see. And the thorns represent, it could represent just spiritual warfare. It could represent painful circumstances that people have experienced. It could represent something darker, something really dark inside them that is just resistant. It could represent their perception of God, that could be pained or strained from certain circumstances, or just their their relationship with God. Sometimes that's tainted by churches that haven't fully represented God's character in a truthful way. Judgments, on God due to hurts or painful circumstances. People with stigmas against Christianity as a whole, not everyone represents Christianity in a positive light, or they might seem a little out there. And then dealing with spiritual things could just be uncomfortable, period, for people. Spirituality in a whole is something filled with a lot of unknowns and mystery. And so that's sometimes a hard thing to talk about. So real evangelism is like picking from a thorn vine, and it could be painful and uncomfortable at times. But, as I learn to pick from this vine every day, I'm starting to learn, like I said, how to discern which fruit is ripe and ready. So as I pick daily, I'm becoming more familiar with the action. So the more you evangelize, the more you put yourself out there, the more familiar you're going to be with the action. Recognizing the rightness. So, and that kind of is related to the discernment, like I mentioned. Recognizing and using discernment to know when to open your mouth and speak, or, what you need to do in order to evangelize. So my hands kind of guide the choosing of the fruit, and as I am learning how to pick with the least amount of consequences, I have to remember to be gentle as I navigate through vines that might be hard to reach. I'm learning like how fast I should move, or how fast I should speak, in a sense, how fast I should go in and reach that fruit. And that kind of goes with, learning how to approach someone using gentleness. And we don't want to damage the fruit, by going in too aggressively or too quickly. I'm not sure if this is making sense, but this is sort of how the words are coming to me when I was journaling. Also recognizing that if I don't check at different angles, I might miss a fruit. So like I have to scrouch down and like look underneath to make sure I'm not missing any fruit underneath these vines. Which kind of helped me to relate to, you have to try different avenues. You have to look at different angles. You have to be willing to look, go and look in different places, have a different perspective, those sorts of things. In order to reach people that may be hungry for God's word that you might overlook or not notice if you don't change your angle or perspective. So all of this, there are times where evangelism will be really easy. Like I said, fruit easily accessible. Other times, it won't be easy. You're going to have to get your hands dirty. There's going to be some circumstances or consequences that are going to be uncomfortable. Sometimes you might even get hurt in that process. But what I'm learning is that all people are worth fighting for. God is calling us to love others, but also share His love with others. And that gives us something to strive for, but also a command to follow. So I'm not taking that lightly. There is a verse that was shared with me, and it's Romans 10:15. It says, "How beautiful are the feet of those who preach the gospel of peace and bring glad tidings of good things." So that's I'm just trying to align myself with that, and preach peace, but also truth. And I hope that this has made some sort of sense to you and has encouraged you in more ways than one, and gives you some motivation to speak not only the gospel, but witnessing to what God has done in your life. Thank you.